Hello YouTube, I am your host, the Crimson Warrior, and today I'm bringing to you guys my Salamangreat deck profile and tournament report, starting with my very sad tournament report. Now I'm going to be honest with you guys, and for the sake of myself, because I don't like pumping myself up when I'm not doing well, but I did terrible, like absolutely terrible this last tournament. Game 1, I'd say, was my best game out of all of them, and it was against Beasts, and I won the dice roll, and he went first. Or no, I won the dice roll and I went first. Why would he go first? And I established my negate board, and he put up Naturia Beast, and I raged it or roared it away, and just won the game from there. And then game 2, he went first, and then he established Naturia Beast against me like that was going to do something. I'm not sure why he did it. Like, I had the circle in my hand, but I also drew the Spinny and the Gazelle, so I had no need to activate spell cards that turn, so I just, I think I spun it away with Mirage Stalio. Like, it wasn't anything difficult to take care of. So that was honestly my best game, was just spinning away a Naturia Beast with Mirage Stalio on this dude's custom Beast deck, which was really cool, had plays, but it just couldn't fight the negate board that I was putting up. Next game was Pendulum, so my first game was terrible. I bricked and drew like 2 or 3 spells and 2 hand traps, or 3 hand traps. It was like Phantasme and Ash Blossom, and then none of my Searcher spells. It was like the field spell, Called by the Graves. It was terrible, so... And it was against Pendulum, so Called by the Graves didn't even really work against him. So he just established Jackal game 1 and won off of that. And we went into game 2, and game 2 I went first. I established my average turn 1 board, but I didn't negate the right plays on his turn, and it just led to me getting overwhelmed by his resources instead of the opposite, which is what my deck is supposed to do. So I need to work on my Pendulum matchup. Obvious why I'm saying that is going to come in a little later. Next up, back up, since I went and lost one, I got paired up with a Galaxy Photon deck with one of my friends, and it was not a pretty game for him, game 1. I won the dice roll, I set up the negate board, and he just couldn't deal with the resources. I had the Ash, I had the Roar, I had everything I needed, and he had not enough to get by. And I think he punched through my board a little bit, but the next turn I was able to do the Mirage Stalio thing again and just keep going. So he wasn't able to deal with that, and I very quickly had game. Next game, he goes first, and he actually established some sort of protection board. I don't know what he did, but he summoned a strong Link monster, a dragon, and then backed it up with an XYZ with a protection effect that made it so I couldn't destroy things by battle, or, well, his dragons by battle. So I did the next best thing, and this is where I may have cheated, I may have not, I don't know. I don't think I extended with the Mirage Stalio to get into the Borolo Dragon. I just remember using Spinny, Jag, Fowl, and my Sunlight Wolf, or a combination of any of those, honestly. And that's how I got into it and took his monster and then proceeded to punch for game, because that's all I had. That was the only play I had. But I don't remember if I went into the Mirage Stalio or not. So honestly, that game could have went either way if I did go into the Mirage Stalio. I'm not sure. Game 4, back on to a winning streak. I got paired up with Sky Striker, who I played against when I first started playing again, like a few months back, and to be honest, I think my lack of knowledge of how to fight the deck is really what's defeating me. I lost the dice roll, he set up a good game 1, and then just Called by the Grave my Sunlight Wolf when I went into the second Sunlight Wolf, which was a really awkward play that shoved me in a really awkward place and totally destroyed my resource management for the rest of the duel, and he proceeded to take me out the next turn, I think. Next game, I went first. I sided in kaijus and my third twin twisters, and I think my lack of knowledge of how to play against that deck is what defeated me. He managed to get multi-roll or N-gauge off, whatever just makes your resources throw up all over the board. I wasn't able to stop it. I didn't stop the right plays. And then he just blew me away. I don't even remember where I lost that duel. Oh, I kaiju'd him to protect my turn on my turn 2, because my first turn I didn't get a good board out. That's what it was. And so I wasn't able to get access to my Jack Jaguar until turn 2. And then so he had already had a set board. He had set 4 and the face-up continuous on the field. And that was his field presence. So I kaiju'd his Sky Striker monster, I forget which one it was called, to turn off all of his back row, but one of them was called by the grave. And I think we've all heard this story before, where you kaiju the player and it doesn't do anything because, my god, he just hit my Stalio then, and my game was over. I wasn't able to keep up resource-wise with him because he had already gotten so much, and without my Stalio, I wasn't able to play catch-up with him. So he just won both those games. So it was a really sad showing on my part, that game. And then my last game, which I thought would be a turnaround for me, I fight the Pendulum player I played last week and totally beat. And he came back with a vengeance, and I mean a vengeance. Once again, I lost the dice roll, and I drew multiple hand traps, and I hand trapped him 2 times, and he realized my hand was bad just because of how much I did that, and he just kept extending, and managed to get Jackal out on field, and that was his end board, and I wasn't able to out the Jackal. Being able to get the Jackal out was enough. I think I had Circle in hand and a Spinny in hand, but without the Gazelle, and I couldn't play the Circle because, yeah, it goes like that sometimes. The Jackal was able to stop it. Game 2, I went first, and I grabbed Rage instead of Roar because I knew popping 2 on his turn would be a lot better than negating a play, especially against that deck. But like a really good player, he just kept extending. He kept having cards in his hand, and it got to the point that I felt like I needed to hit something because he was going into monsters that were way bigger than mine, and getting to the point where I was gonna be forced to activate my Roar anyway because he was about to go in battle and cleave over my Sunlight Wolf that I had left on board and my Jack Jag. So I activate it, and then he activated his Pendulum, did his Pendulum Scales, did his Pendulum Summon, and I lost the game from there. And that was my showing this tournament. It was really sad. Playings-wise, I really need to get better with the deck, and I really feel sad because this might be my last few weeks with Salamangreat when I've only had 2 months with the deck, so I really hope this ban list gives me some more time to learn with this deck, especially since I'm so fresh back into the game, into learning. But that's enough dilly-dallying. Let's get into the deck profile and what I would change for the future to do better in these matches. Alright guys, we're going to get through this as quickly as we can because it's already getting a little longer than I expected it to be. 3 Salamangreat Gazelle, Foolish Burial on legs, obvious why we play it. 3 Spinny, I run a lot of discard targets, I want to discard Spinny, so I run 3. I run 2 Foxy, I always have it when I need it, so I only run 2. I understand why others run 3, but for me I've pushed the 3rd out for other options. 1 Lady Debug, Rhoda, Stratos for the deck. 1 Jack Jaguar, Recurrence. 1 Falco. And then 2 Foul, rounding out our rank 4 package. Now getting into the hand traps, I run Triple Phantasme. Like I stated before, you don't need these, but they do help a lot. If you don't have them, running extra consistency cards like Foolish or Upstart Goblin or just more hand traps can tide you over. Just realize that your breaking potential goes up a lot without these, and even with these, Your opponents don't link summon as much as they used to this format, so sometimes these can become bricks in and of themselves. Next up, triple Ash Blossom, staple and recyclable in this deck. No reason not to. Triple Effect Veiler. This is where we start getting to the changes. I think I'm going to pull these out for draw and lock birds, because I need to be able to put my opponent into a simplified game state where they can't keep generating resources like Pendulum and Sky Striker have been doing to me, where they're just constantly digging. Like, just stop. It's gross how many cards you're digging for, and that's coming from a Salad player. Next up, triple Signet Mining. You don't need 3. I've seen 2. I've seen 1. It's all how you feel about consistency. I brick hard a lot of the time, so I run as much consistency as I can. Speaking of, triple Circle. Next up, we are a combo-based deck. Triple Called by the Grave. Practically staple in the format. Just every deck has targets in the deck for this. Orcust, almost all of their cards, if you preemptively hit them at the right time, it can slow down the combo a bit. Salad is weak to it. Sky Striker, you can hit the Ray or the Kagari. Just so much application. Next up, double Twin Twisters. I main deck these because I've gotten floodgated out a couple times and I'm sick of it, so they are now in the main to stay. Only thing I would change these for is maybe the Galaxy Cyclones, because banishing and paying 1,000 is actually a lot better than destroying 2 and discarding. Next up, 1 Sanctuary, the brick, you don't want to draw it, and 1 Will. I'm thinking about dropping Will because I've seen builds without it at this point, which means many of players feel like they don't need it, and I've been beginning to feel like it's been lackluster lately. So, I want to know what you guys think about the card, honestly. Should I keep it? I used to run it at 2. I still think it's one of the more broken cards in the deck, but honestly, I'm really thinking about running other things like Desires at this point to keep more resources, to keep my hands going, and keep the games in a state where I'm the one with more cards. Next up, triple Imperm. I love these. They can't be called by the graves. It's just so applicable, and with the duelists, not duelists, I forget the most recent set it came out of, my apologies, but with the new set, it's much more affordable. Still not affordable for plenty, I know, but Effect Veilers do the same job. They can just be called by the grave. The only thing you're paying for with these is for the ability to not be called by the grave. You're guaranteed for this to go through unless they have Trap Negation. Next up, Rage and Roar, standard. With how much Pendulum and back row heavy decks I've been dealing with, Rage to 2 is really starting to feel like it might be a good idea. I just don't know where my other 2 copies are from the structure deck. And that wraps it up for the main deck. Next up, for the extra deck, triple Balinix, standard protection, don't run 2. Triple Sunlight Wolf, standard, run 3. It's the engine of the deck. Oh, my apologies. Next up, double Mirage Stalio. I run 2 because I feel like we need to. The players who say we only need 1, the arguments never seem to really build up to anything to me, so I run the 2 because I've always gone into the second one. Almost every one of my games that starts going into longer game states, I go into the second one. And that might be because I'm playing inefficiently, but for right now, that is how it is. Next up, double Heat Leo. This is getting really good, like, almost to the point of I want to run 3 good. Just the spinning away the back row is becoming so huge, and since it's not once per turn to spin away your opponent's back row, like, feasibly I've wanted to go into 3 of these in 1 turn before and have the resources to do it, and would rather do that than deal with my opponent's back row sometimes. Then I run the 1 Violet Chimera. I know, odd, but my extra deck makes that make a bit more sense. 1 Nightmare Phoenix, Link 2, Destruction. 1 Borreload. This saved me in my Photon game, as I was telling you guys. It was MVP. Baguski and Abyss Dweller. Now, these 2 are really just deck dependent. If you're fighting Orcust, go into the Abyss Dweller. If you're going turn 1 in the mirror match, go into the Baguska. Pendulum doesn't like Baguska very much, and they have difficulty getting over it a little bit, so I'd do that. But most decks, if you're going blind, you don't know what you're doing, Baguska. If you know you're fighting Orcust or anything really graveyard reliant, shut them down with Abyss Dweller. Next up, my beautiful tokens for whenever those are necessary in a match. And now for the extra deck. I am considering making some deep changes, so I'm thinking of showing you guys what they are. The only things I would keep are these: Scythe, Triple Sanctum, and Triple Lancia. They are MVP and work against Orcust, and my locals was starting to get a little more Orcust heavy, so I really couldn't see myself removing them. Now for all of these guys. These guys I'm thinking of pulling out for other things. It's just figuring out what. These are still on the fence. I want to figure out how to get this guy into the extra deck and to run less extra deck monsters, or just a different count, basically, so that I can not have such a heavy side. And then the double super poly for obvious reasons. I used to main deck these, but going turn 1 all the time, it sucks seeing this. I would maybe put Fusion of Fire back in the deck just because it's searchable and I have missed it a few games. Now, getting into Pankratops, Kaiju, Twin Twisters. These guys I'm probably removing entirely. I would turn them into triple anti-spell fragrance and triple or double Denko Sekka, depending on what I'm able to do in the editing process this next week. But that's my hot take and my tournament report. I wanted to thank you guys for watching this with me, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Give the video a like if you enjoyed, comment and tell me what y'all were thinking about it, subscribe if you enjoy the content, and hit that notification bell if you're looking to see more, because it ain't stopping now.